Okay, all right. So for those that didn't hear the story, for all of the times that we've been doing town halls, which is almost 12 months now, our expert speaker has always turned up. Just today, they didn't. And we live in unpredictable times, don't we? So, you know, what we can do is, in my mind, I'm saying, I do hope everything is all right in Dr. Mukta's world. And it's just been a slip of the mind that she hasn't turned up. So that's what I'm wishing her for. So what we did was we went into breakout groups to introduce one another, also to answer two questions. One, if you were talking to government, what would be the solutions that you would present to them and the issues around mental health? And secondly, what questions do you want answered about the UN Decade of Healthy Aging? So I understand from Berenice that there were 6 groups. So I'm going to ask group 1 for a spokesperson to come forward and share their questions or their thoughts about, you know, the mental health solutions issues and also the questions about the UN Decade of Healthy Aging. So group 1. Is there anybody from group 1?
I can't recall who was group 1, but I'm happy to say that I was group 1, and I'll talk on behalf of the group that I was talking with, which also included Sheila. So 20 minutes was not enough time to talk about all the issues, and really the priority and the focus was very much around the mental health concerns and issues, and things about how older people don't necessarily have access to technology, which then creates greater anxiety and issues. And we highlighted the issue that is happening in Ontario, where we have basically a complete lockdown. Some of the older people who don't have access to technology and information around what is available and accessible, they hear that big box stores are open, which is the case in some areas of Ontario. But hardwares where they would need to get snow removal equipment or salt aren't open. They are open, but they're only open for curbside pickup. So here in Ontario, where we had a snowstorm over the weekend and some older people were fronting up at hardwares trying to get snow removal equipment and salt, only to be turned away to say that the only way you can do it and get it is ordered online. And they had no way of ordering it online. So it was creating even more anxiety. And I don't think governments have really thought about how they can support older people that don't have access to the technology or aren't familiar with technology, that are fronting up at convenience stores to get items, only to be turned away when people are in the store and could get the stuff for them, but you can only purchase it online. So it actually is creating greater anxiety for people, particularly when they're concerned about slips and falls and snow removal around their properties. There isn't enough yeah, go on.
Look, thanks, Greg. Perhaps we can take that. And are there any other sort of comments about this whole issue of, you know, access to important resources that are really increasing the mental health issues? Cynthia?
I think
Cynthia and then Olive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is the exact recommendation that our group came up with for question number 1, is that the lack of technology and access to technology, and we have a solution. What we want to call on governments to do is to ensure that there's the bandwidth in all communities, in all areas, that can support the technology, and then that technology be given in collaboration with civil society to older persons. But it can't stop there. You can't just give them that. They have to have a helper, a chum, that is their partner to help them use the technology. and in order for it to happen. So we're right on target and agreeing with Group 1 about it's the access. And every 5 years, all of our skills become obsolete in the tech world. So it's got to be an ongoing process.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Olive?
I think we have to also ask older adults what they need and what will benefit them. We're not asking them, we're treating older adults as children who cannot think for themselves. We're creating, I think we're creating a real pandemic in mental health because older adults have been so isolated and they're still being very isolated. So I think we have to start saying to older adults, what can we do to help? What do you need that's going to help? So we need to have governments realize that older adults can think, they do have ideas, and they can come up with solutions if they would just work with them.
Okay.
Nicely said, Olive. Bill Smith here from New York. Olive,
Yeah.
2 years ago, completed her PhD. So she's a lifetime learner and a good example to many of us. So congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you, Bill.
yeah, brilliant. Joan Kavanagh.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I was late getting in. I had a problem. Now, I'm in Ireland, and we have a national organisation called Age Friendly Ireland. This is rolled out by the government in every county in Ireland, 32 local authorities. Within that programme, there is an older person's council in each local authority representing the voice of older people, because it is important that the voice of older people is represented. Now, I'm in Galway, and there are 12 on the committee, the Older Persons Council, and they represent different organisations again. And we have a very strong active retirement groups in Ireland. We have 55,000 groups. They represent older people as well. We have an awful lot of older people's organisations in Ireland. So we're well catered for that way. With the Age Friendly programme, we can meet with the local authorities. We have an alliance every quarter where we meet the budget holders. That would be the managers of the local authorities and the health service. And we put the issues to them to feed into their policies. Now, I don't know if you have an equivalent age-friendly program in America or India or Australia, you know, but I think it is the best program that ever came into Ireland.
So Joan, you are certainly in an enviable position in Ireland, because Ireland, you know, has one of the strongest, I think it's the only national program. There are certainly projects and programs in Canada and many countries, but I can tell you that, you know, Ireland is really a standout example. So you also may be interested to know there's the global network of age-friendly cities and communities. And age-friendly cities and communities is one of the 4 action areas of the UN Decade of Healthy Aging. The 4 areas being the way we think, feel and act about age and aging, which is ageism, long-term care, primary integrated care and age-friendly cities and communities. So, you know, they're the 4 areas through which IFA will certainly be viewing all of our work portfolios.
Yeah, this program was started by the WHO way back. It could be 15 years ago.
Look, it's 2007, and certainly it's a global program. So, you know, let's open it to the floor in terms of, you know, the mental health issues and solutions. Certainly, you know, Greg and Olive and Cynthia have talked about access to technology, but also, you know, the legitimacy of the voices of older people. asking older people what they need and how they want to receive or how they want to respond to those needs. So if you wanted to say something, please pop your name into the chat box so that I can pick it up. Certainly Meg's made a comment. Erica, did you want to mention the work of AARP in WHO age-friendly cities?
Yes, thank you, Jane. I actually put that in the chat, but I just want to follow up on a couple of things that were mentioned about digital and also about rights. So yes, there is that issue around access, and piggybacking over voices of older persons. We talk about the independent expert on the rights of older persons is called digital access, a human right. But then the converse of that is older persons who do not want to get involved in technology should not be penalized because they don't want to deal with tech, right? This is their right. Then I bring up the other issue around privacy and ethics. Yes, we're all on the digital bandwagon, and in fact, ARP, the UN, DESA, the International Telecommunications Unit, and the Office of the Independent Expert, we're holding a side event on February 8th from 9 a.m. to 10:30 on digital inclusion and older persons, a smart mix. I invite you all to join. It's virtual. CSOC-D, which kicks off that week, has as its theme also digital and justice and access. So these are conversations, but to your point on mental health, Jane, I'd like to hear from people in this discussion. We heard in our group from Anne about the community work, and then from Ken in Vancouver about, a campaign from Bell Canada around social isolation, which totally links into this issue of mental health. So I'm just opening it up to you, Jane, to take it forward.
Look, thank you. I think, Ken, if you could just come forward and talk about the Bell campaign. I think it's a really important campaign.
Yes, sorry about this. It's 4 o'clock in Vancouver, so I'll just leave that picture up. Yes, Bell Canada has a program, and if you're a hockey person, you probably saw it on TV during the hockey games, etc. They are promoting this Speak Up and Listen program. So it's probably easiest for everyone just to Google Bell Canada Let's Speak and Talk program.
Look, thanks very much, Ken, and good on you for being here at 4 a.m. I commend you. So thank you. Anne Lindsay? No? Okay. Andra, you put something in the chat box about, rights. Would you like to speak to that?
Sure. Good morning, Jane, and thank you for the opportunity. It was a discussion that we were having in group number 6 about opportunities to engage and learn from each other and share experiences. So I did post a link to register for an upcoming event next week, an event that IFA is hosting and organized by the Global Alliance for the Rights of Older People. And this webinar is it's open for anyone who's interested in advocacy for the human rights of older people, and will focus around activities, a discussion about the open-ended working group on aging. So I invite those present on the call here to find out more information if you click the link.
Thanks very much, Andra. And we'll go to now Jane Teasdale and Titus Abwoyo. So Jane and then Titus.
Yeah, so thank you. So we spent time getting acquainted with each of the group members, which was really good. So some of the, I guess, programs that some of the groups were working on, Patrick Slaney from Toronto is with the LGBTQ. So they are a seniors organization and is creating or have created a Pride network for the LGBTQ, and that's the Senior Pride. Chris Kovas from Ottawa, Canada, working with many different community agencies, I guess providing resources for people in the community, such as Meals on Wheels, and I guess all different types of services to help individuals. Talia from New York, talking about domestic violence and elder abuse, which is was on, very important, financial abuse, and how do police officers, how are they navigating this or flagging people, and how are they helping older persons and those that are vulnerable. Indu, she had put some information up. She's a medical doctor, and she started 10 years ago with a couple of people organizing these groups. And now there's 200 people that come to her groups. So I think that's pretty amazing, using community assets, word of mouth, it's creating these wonderful groups that we see in the community. Suzanne from Newfoundland, she's a seniors advocate. So working again with the government and the community, obviously age-friendly communities fit into that. So we didn't have enough time to go through everyone, but I think this is a great, form for, future, IFA meetings as well. So we get to know people and really what they're doing within their community. So thank you.
And thanks, Jane. It might be a great idea to once a month, go into breakout groups and have one or two questions, and that information can be pulled together and put in a position statement, the attendees of the town hall. So, if this is something that you think, would be useful, then just, put that in your in the chat box. So Titus and then Rosemary Varel. Titus, are you there?
Yeah, hi. I'm not quite sure what the question is, and I'm sorry. I'm at a restaurant, so there's a bit of noise in the background.
That's all right, Titus. You were talking about the project that's going on in Nairobi.
Excellent. Okay. So we have a campaign that was initiated by the HelpAge Network. It's called It's About Rights campaign, where we are calling upon the UN to create a convention for older people, for the rights of older people. So when this campaign started, we also decided just to get to the rural areas of where we work and make information a right, for older people to access. So there's something about older people in Kenya living in rural areas. They are quite far apart from one another. So getting information is really, really difficult. So we came up with a project to allocate each of the older person who is living alone a radio, just as simple as that. And because we have elections coming up next year, so we wanted them to have access to whatever is going on. And really, after issuing these radios, we realized there's some really good impact. There's a general feeling of, oh, I know what is going on in the country. I am valued. So it really kind of improved on their mental health and their activity generally, which is something that I feel can be adopted by many advocates of the aged. It has also shown that information access needs to be made available to all of the people, regardless of where they are. It is key to them. They feel involved, they feel valued. And it's something that we hope the government can embrace. And just to add on to it, earlier on in the year, we had a consultation with older people just on the impact of COVID-19. We were doing a quick survey for the OEWGA, the Open-Ended Working Group. So there's a question that we prompted on older people in the village, and we asked them, what is it that has changed in your life since the pandemic started? And we were surprised that some older people said they can't do away with technology, that they have to embrace technology, that they need technology. So I think technology is a great solution to that governments can implement and include in the policies to improve the mental health of older people. Thank you.
Thank you, Titus, and thank you for coming all the way from Nairobi. I think that you used, one word several times, and it's about value. And I really want to emphasize that as human beings, we really want to feel valued and be part of, community, whatever community looks like to us. So thank you for that. And we certainly welcome you to continue to be on these town halls. Rosemary Burrell, you had an interesting comment about Grassroots Projects.
Yeah, hi. And before I forget, I wanted to just mention that I recently learned that my local library, the technology personnel, acquired a device that allows individual homes that do not have access to cell towers or Wi-Fi to get on the internet. So there's something new that's just being tested right now locally, but it will be like individual devices. Great for places that don't have cell towers or access to Wi-Fi. The other thing about Grassroots, throughout my entire career as a, developing programs, I always found that the most important changing element was people-to-people contact. And with that in mind, of other programs that I had developed before the internet, when we did international connections and people were connecting and impacting real change in Central America, I used the same concept locally. So I'm a little bit north of New York City. William and I are in the same region. And I was hired by the local government to develop programs to reach out to the seniors. In my position a year and a half. And my main goal has been to try to create awareness, not just for seniors of that I'm here as an advocate for them, but for the larger community to engage with them. And the most effective thing that has happened, just happened a couple of months ago. I had, actually it happened in the spring, but then we had the pandemic. But a local teacher contacted me, became aware of me in the position and said, can I do something with seniors with my class for Kindness Day? And the upshot was they were trying to connect to seniors. And once that starts happening in a community, once the local people start reaching out and connecting one-on-one, things take off on their own. And I expect that to really grow. What I ended up doing with the teacher was we sent cards during the holidays, and we will do it again at Valentine's Day with a little certificate. Each senior gets a little certificate. They can reach out to a volunteer who will come and do a task for them. Now that sounds like a small thing, but what it really is doing is it's connecting somebody and making that senior real, and then they start listening to each other, and there's the opportunity for them to develop a relationship. And that's really when, real change is going to happen in a community, in my opinion. It sounds small, but it's I think has a lot of effect.
Look, thank you, Rosemary. I think the key words for me is people to people. And, I'm always struck by the way that we language, doing something with seniors, rather than, I'm one of them, but I wouldn't regard myself. And I think it comes back to the language and the narrative, that we need to keep paying attention to. The idea of, the certificate is great because what really we're doing is actually connecting human beings together. And that's the connection. And, being valued and feeling valued, but also, sharing something of your life with another person, which sometimes doesn't always happen in these times. I was struck by, and thank you, Mark, for your great comments, and I take them on board. I was struck by a comment that EI has made. Is there now a level of frustration with the way the whole virus is being handled worldwide? I would say yes, absolutely. I shout at the television on a regular basis. And I think, you know, it's okay to actually have those views and express them, because, you know, what we're doing is we can only do what we can do in our close environment. And I think that there really is some frustration. So, and it differs from one country to the next. And just a story for all of you, my country of origin is Australia. My place of birth is Perth, Western Australia. And that state has been in lockdown from other states on and off for the last 6 months. But they have probably 14 cases of COVID, 14 cases, right?
And Jane, they're in COVID hotels.
They're
in
in
the community.
yeah. So, you know, so it really is when my family say, well, it must be terrible for you. You know, they don't have any idea, because they've never worn a mask, they've never social distanced, they've never had all resources shut down. So we are all dealing with so many different things as individuals. You know, I think one of my staff, you know, really, all of my staff, but one in particular says, you know, if only I could hug somebody, you know. So it's that contact that we so miss.
Jane, I just want to just jump in a little bit on that. You know, I think one of the issues for older people, particularly around mental health, is having transparency and honesty from government. And I don't think there is transparency and honesty from government around how they're dealing with this pandemic. And older people start hearing news stories from other parts of the world and go, well, what's happening in my province or in my city or in my country in comparison to others, when they hear that every person in Israel has been vaccinated, that there's been nearly 26 million vaccines put out in the United States already, and we're still struggling in Ontario to get out 30,000. And I don't think there's a level of honesty with government to tell people the truth, and truth matters. And if they don't tell the truth, it creates greater anxiety for people when they see it happening around the world.
And certainly, you know, distrust as well. So I think that, you know, it goes back to a comment that Olive mentioned about, you know, it's about older people can make decisions. Gee, that's a new thing. But it actually, you know, oh, surprise, you know, it's okay. We can handle the truth. Tell us the truth. Because then we can actually, you know, set our environment. We're coming up to the hour, so I just wanted to see whether there were any questions about the UN Decade of Healthy Aging. Would it be useful to have a session on the UN Decade and how you and civil society could really be involved in that? Were there any questions that came out of the groups?
Well, in our group, we didn't get to that question, but I think it's a really good document, and one that we should learn a lot about. And I think the first thing is, you know, how we think, feel, and act toward aging and the aged. I think we have to start talking about ageism and how it is impacting on our lives and the lives of others as well. So I think that's where we need to start, and we can get rid of some of the ageism and start realizing that older adults can provide a lot of solutions because they've been there and done that. So I think we need somewhere to start there, how we can get involved.
Olive, I wonder whether you would come on one of our town halls as our expert speaker. You and I came in contact when you were coming to the end of your doctorate, and I think it's not only a great story, but your doctorate is very important. So I wonder whether you would agree to be one of our expert speakers in the near future.
Oh, I don't feel like an expert, but I could work with you. Yes.
We will work together, you and I, non-experts.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Jane.
All right.
This is Indu. I just want to add one thing. I think what we have to bring back is the elders, wisdom of elders, and we have forgotten that. And in many societies, the elders were revered to have a wisdom and give solutions. And I think part of it, as I agree, ageism we have to change that the elders are helpless to elders have wisdom.
And I think that's a wonderful segue, to us also listening to other generations. I think it's really important to have this back and forth. I think at the heart of this, perhaps it would be good to pause and listen. But I value your comments, Indu, in the generational knowledge, and I think it's an important aspect of life, isn't it, for that to happen.
I'm trying to start a program to connect students with retired elders to have a cup of tea or a coffee or just help out a little bit in housework or things like that, and the two generations can learn from each other.
Thank you.
Could I just jump in here to say, we in Ireland, in Galway, we work with university students and we run programs with them. It's called intergenerational programs.
Well, look, thank you very much. And Suzanne Brake, you've done an interview on CBC Radio this morning on ageism. So Susan, if you can give us that link, we will send that out in our resources. So thank you very much. Olive, people want to know what the topic of your doctorate was.
It was Pioneers in Aging, women 85 and older living in rural communities.
Wonderful. So you can be sure that Olive will be one of our speakers going forward. Pioneers in Aging, women aged 85 and over living in rural communities. What stories they could tell, Olive.
Oh, yes.
All right. Well, look, thank you very much for your patience and understanding. But I think, as Mark has said, Mark Benning, not having an expert speaker created the space and opportunity to come together in a different way that benefits us all. So we've taken on your comments. We will have a town hall with each other every 4 to 6 weeks, and we'll identify a couple of questions. We'll have 30 minutes to break out and answer those questions so that we can really build community. So thank you very much. Next week, don't miss it. Enid Borden, ensuring food security for older persons as an important UN Sustainable Development Goal. Enid is someone that you just have to hear. She is frank, she is opinionated, she really speaks to the heart of the problem of food insecurity. So we welcome Enid next week. And in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us today, and be with us next week. Stay safe and stay well, and thank you all. See you soon.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.